All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We are back with another edition of the NBA show. It is Monday. We got a 7-game slate. We got some big boy injuries to talk about. We got some not so big boy injuries, but Rio, what's going on, man? How was your weekend? How was your Christmas? What's going on? How are you? Hadn't talked to you since last Monday.
I know it feels like these shows are just so few and far between now, but we get a normal slate this week for NBA. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you'll see my ugly mug on this YouTube channel. But yeah, Christmas was good. Had a nice shipper last Monday, talked about that. And then, yesterday was pretty solid. I know we had a lot of really good day for a lot of members, myself included. I was very close to shipping the power sweep. Needed a lot to go right. Needed like 25, 26 points, something like that from Dontavian Wicks. And that game just turned out being pretty low scoring and up until the end there, but it was just, the Packers have this, all these different receivers that get in the mix, and it's just hard to feel confident about any of them. But yeah, I think I needed 16 points from Wicks to get to second place. I had the same lineup as somebody else. So we would have chopped, it would have been a 30, 40K chop, something like that. So it would have been really good, but didn't get there. Yeah, but this slate, we're talking NBA right now. This slate looks really good. A lot of really strong options at point guard and center tonight. So you have to be perfect there. You can't miss. So we'll talk through all those spots as we get through the slate. Try to find some good pieces to attack. There's definitely some really good game environments to attack on the slate. I'm really excited to talk through. I'm trying to find some low owned pieces. I really want to try to get away from some of these chalk plays like Mičić that we'll talk about in this first game. So yeah, excited to talk through this slate with you, and I'm really liking the slate from a GPP perspective.
Yeah, good GPP slate for sure. And if you aren't a member over here at The Nation, head on over there, enter the promo code PGA100 if you're into the PGA streets. That's coming back. That will get you $100 off your first your annual package of the PGA. And if you don't a PGA guy and you want everything else, you can enter the promo code Black Friday. Still running that Black Friday special sale, $99 for the rest of the season. That'll get you through to the end of the year. Let's just get right into it. This first game, we got Charlotte, we got Chicago. We have a litany of injuries to discuss in this one. No LaMelo Ball, no Brandon Miller, Zach LaVine, Giddey, and anyone else on the Bulls questionable that I'm missing. Ayo, I think maybe questionable, but they may be out. Talk to me about this game. You got the Bulls 5-point favorites, 226.5 point over under Bulls at Charlotte.
Yeah, those Bulls pieces are more they're probable. Giddey and LaVine looking like they're going to play tonight. They're pretty much fully healthy outside of Ayo Dosunmu. He's listed doubtful, but he's pretty much out. They said a couple of days ago that he was going to be out for 10 or so days, so definitely treating that more like a doubtful tag, but they still have a pretty deep bench. I do think that Jalen Smith questionable tag is semi-big in terms of the rotation, shortening up a little bit, especially in the front court. They won't really have a true center behind Vucevic. They were kind of playing some Torrey Craig center minutes behind Vuce, and Vuce got it's 38 minutes. I think that kind of big for Vuce from a rotational standpoint. Probably not somebody you're looking to play with all these strong center options, but just something to consider. The Charlotte side definitely bigger injury news with no LaMelo, no Brandon Miller, and then Cody Martin also doubtful. Not really it's another guy that's in rotation for close to 30 minutes a night, so there's definitely a lot of minutes to go around. Nothing really changes here. You want to attack these Bulls games. I think that this is a good spot to attack some of these Charlotte pieces. Talked about at the top, Mičić. He's looking at a ton of ownership, going to be in the starting lineup for LaMelo. He's done okay as a starter for LaMelo this season, averaging 27.5 points per game. DraftKings points per game with in starts for LaMelo, only topped out at 37.5 DK points, which obviously you'd take that 4.6K. But the last time we were playing Chalky Mičić, he was around 4K, like upper 3K, something like that. 4.6K, like you still need him to do something. And with how strong the point guard position is, I kind of want to just get away from him. Obviously, it's a great matchup. Guards have been killing the Bulls all season long, but they did call up KJ Simpson from the G League, so they're going to have a little bit more depth there with Isaiah Wong and KJ Simpson kind of mixing in behind him. So I don't know if we're going to get huge minutes from Micic, maybe close to 30, but probably not like 32, 34. And at one of the chalkiest plays on the entire slate, somebody I'm kind of looking to get away from. Got to see how builds turn out, but just point guard is just such a loaded position tonight. I really don't want to miss there. I think that you could miss pretty big with Micic. But the guys I do really like on the Charlotte side, Bridges and Mark Williams. Bridges sees a huge usage bump in a pretty decently large sample size, right around 6% usage rate increase, averaging 1.3 fantasy points per minute. The minutes are starting to get up there as well. This is one of the more durable guys in the league. We saw last year where he was consistently playing like 40 plus minutes on a nightly basis, and now the minutes are starting to creep up into the upper 30s. Great matchup, pace up spot. He's shooting the ball better. The assist numbers are up. The rebounding numbers are up, double-digit boards in 2 straight games. So I think that he's a totally fine option at a pretty weak forward position. So definitely my favorite piece on the Charlotte side from an upside standpoint. And then I think Mark Williams is a very good play as well at 5.3K. Starting to see those minutes climb up for him as well. Got up to 26 2 games ago, 23 minutes last game. So if he's settling in at the 25, 26-ish minute range, he's looking like he's slightly underpriced. I would expect him to be more like a 6K player. And 5.3K versus a matchup in the Bulls, who are just terrible with their rim defense, I think is a really good spot to attack for Mark Williams. And then last guy I'll mention is Salon, 3.8K. I just would rather pay down at the forward positions and spend up at point guard. So I am totally fine eating Salon chalk. Probably going to be given, a pretty big role if he's starting or not. I played 31 minutes against OKC last time. Not really the really low usage guy and doesn't really have much of an offensive game. He's honestly quite bad offensively, but he can get there with, maybe he gets 8, 10 rebounds, 10 points, then you got a double-double, and he's looking at like 22, 24 fantasy points, something like that, which I think would be plenty for him. So I do like Salon as a value play. These secondary pieces probably won't get to too much. If you wanted to use like DeQuan Jeffries, I guess, as a pivot off of a chalky Salon, you could, but not guaranteed to play a lot of minutes. Would rather play Salon. On the Bulls side, I just find it really hard to get to anybody on this team right now, just with how deep their rotation is. Going to need multiple guys to be out, and with Lonzo back and Giddey and Zach LaVine probable, just not enough minutes to go around for these guys to feel good about. I think that Giddey, you could probably still play at 6.9K just because if he gets like 32 minutes, good chance he could pay off the tag in a really good matchup here. But 7K, 6.9K is that's like a floor, or that's a ceiling tag to pay for somebody that's not really playing 34 plus minutes. So both side, not too interested in. Definitely like those Charlotte pieces a little bit more.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. I love seeing my boy Isaiah Wong in the NBA, man. Used to watch him when he was playing for the Hurricanes, had a good tournament there. But let me ask you this. Why I feel like the Bulls are much better than the Hornets, especially without their 2 best players. Why is that spread only a 5-point spread, you think? I mean the Bulls just suck?
It could be a number of things. Maybe, I doubt it's anything to do with injury. I think it's more so they're on the road, and talent-wise they are better, but just from like a actual like team construction standpoint, they're pretty bad. Like there's just not a well-coached team and just not very competitive. I wouldn't say Charlotte is either, but they've been playing a little bit better. I think Charlotte is actually not. They get a lot of shit for being bad defensively, which I do agree they are below average, but they're not as bad as everybody thinks, I would say.
Got it. Before we move on to the next game, let's say hello to some people in the chat. Bobby wins a lot. Parabay, Big Ant's in here. Richard Payton, what's going on, Richard? Gang Green. Wardo's in here as always. Ross, Jake, what's going on, Jake? How you doing, man? Baker Mayfield. Hey, Baker Mayfield, lining your pockets up. Congrats. You had the Baker, triple, double, quad? You could have onslaughted it with some Thielen run back. Is that who was on your team too, Rio? Was Baker?
Yeah, I had a Baker triple stack with Bucky, Evans, and Payne Durham, and then I had Adam Thielen on the comeback.
There you go. And then Jordan Newens, what's going on? Nate D's in the house. What's going on, Nate D? Appreciate you tuning in. As always, moving on to the next game, we have these Knicks who struggled, went to OT the other night with these Wizards, if I'm not mistaken. Get them again, 12.5-point favorites. Pretty high total at 228.5 as well. We got Mikal Bridges, the new Iron Man of the NBA. I saw the other day where he's leading the league in total minutes played. You got Jalen Brunson questionable, Jordan Poole questionable from what I'm looking at. If either of those are changed, Rio, please correct me, but that's what I'm seeing. No other major news that I see of anybody out. But talk to me about this game. Any love? Can the Wizards run it back? They didn't have Poole the other night. There was no pool parties, so maybe that's why it was so close. But Knicks at Washington tonight.
Yeah, no Poole or Kuzma, so that's probably why it was close. Now you got both those guys probably returning tonight. I would expect the game to blow out. Yeah, I think the Wizard side is really easy to break down. Probably just a full X out for me on this slate. If you wanted to get to anybody, I think that Sarr is probably my favorite piece just because he's probably going to play blowout, probably going to play if the game's close. I don't know. You're just not really looking to these Wizards guys for upside on this slate, I don't think. So I would just make it a, not a 6-game slate, but a 6.5-game slate. You X out one team from this game, and you can make it a lot easier building lineups tonight. But yeah, the Knicks side is a lot more enticing. Definitely think you could make a case for both Cat and Jalen Brunson tonight. But yeah, like I said, two very good point guard and center positions tonight. So you got to really have a strong lean. The good thing about the Knicks is, outside of Brunson, like these guys are going to play a ton of minutes. They've been a little bit more cautious with Brunson, and especially now coming into the game with a Q tag with a strained calf, probably not a spot that they want to push him if they don't need to. I do love the spot for him, though. I mentioned it over the weekend. I thought Brunson was an excellent pivot off of guys like Kyrie and I forget who else was on the slate, but in that guard range, he came in like 4% owned. I only played one lineup on that slate, so it didn't get to him. But tonight's kind of similar. He's not coming in with a ton of ownership. The matchup is as good as it gets. Wizards dead last in DVP. They pretty much get killed everywhere on the court. You could look like their rim defense is terrible, 3-point defense is terrible, pick and roll, transition stuff, all bad. So there's a lot of paths for these guys to get there. So yeah, I think that I don't know. I'm probably not gonna play too much Brunson tonight, as much as I love the matchup. Just coming into the game with the Q tag is a little bit worrisome, and they've been a little bit more willing to cut his minutes back. Wouldn't be surprised to see him sit. I doubt he does because he's also pretty durable. But yeah, we'll get that news first game in the slate, so we'll get the news in time. I do like the spot for Cat a ton. He still got there last game, put up 57 DraftKings points, and he ran into foul trouble early again for the third game in a row. So he needs to figure out how to stop fouling because he should absolutely smash in the spot. Wizards are dead last in DVP versus centers. 9.8K I think is a pretty reasonable tag. Should probably keep ownership pretty low for him. So I think that he's an excellent play. And then these secondary pieces you could definitely get to. I like the spot for Hart at a pace of spot versus a team that struggles in transition. It's always kind of where I like to fire up Josh Hart, triple-double threat as well. Bridges is playing the most minutes in the league, like you mentioned. He's probably going to play 40 minutes here again, even if the game is a blowout. It's kind of hard to project him like more than what he is right now because he's scoring really well right now. This month he shot the ball really well. I think he's shooting 55+% from the field. So I think that he's a really fine option at 6.2K and weak forward position. So I like him. Definitely prefer him over OG. I wouldn't play Precious unless you expect Cat to get foul trouble again. And then Miles McBride, if Brunson is out, would be probably the best value on the entire slate. So yeah, I like these Knicks guys a little bit, but a little concerned about blowout here.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Josh Hart triple-double. Need to look into that. You think he's viable? He was close last game with 5 extra minutes. Let's see if he can do it again tonight. If you are just joining us, make sure you're hitting that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Jake, hope you had fun at that Bucks game last night. Always good when your fantasy guys are running to the end zone and you're there live to watch them. So that's cool to hear. Next up, we have the Clippers taking on the Pelicans, 4.5-point spread. Clippers are favored 218.5-point total. If you're looking for a 97-92 type of ball game, this is your boomer ball game right here. But interested to see if you love anybody in this one, Rio. You got the Clippers at New Orleans taking on the Pelicans.
Yeah, I actually do have a little bit of interest in this game. We've seen the Pelicans really tighten up their rotation in games that are close, and this projected to be a close game. Clippers only favored by 4.5. Clippers are still playing really good defense this season, top 4 in defensive rating in the league right now. Taking away rim scoring with Zubac down low, their catch-shoot defense has been really good as well. So it's going to be a tough spot for them to the Pelicans put up points, but obviously that stuff could vary on a night-to-night basis. And if they get hot, I think this game has a little bit more fantasy appeal than it's probably getting right now. Pelicans are a really good spot to attack for the Clippers, so we should see some big boy points, fantasy points from the Clipper side of things, with the Pelicans being the second worst defense in the league, second worst rim defense, allowing the fourth most threes, second most transition points, a lot of catch and shoot points. So really, anybody on the Clippers is a good option. I think it's a pretty clear spot though for the main pieces: James Harden, Zubac, and Norm Powell. Harden, I'm a little bit less excited about. Just haven't really seen that sky high usage rate we've been looking to see from this season, with PG shipped out and then Kawhi Leonard starting the season on the shelf. I was kind of expecting something like, obviously he's getting older, so it's tough for him to emulate what he was doing in Houston, but like something similar to that, where he just had like a 35-38% usage rate, crazy assist percentage. Just hasn't really been the case this season. But he's still a fine option and is a triple-double threat. So I think that you should definitely keep him in your player pool. I like him in the game environment, if you're betting on the game environment, with some New Orleans pieces on the other side that I'll talk through. But yeah, totally fine option. 9.1K is a good tag for him. Zubac has been crushing lately. He should be priced 8K plus, I think, just for how good he's playing. He's double-doubles in 7 straight games with a floor of 37.75 DK points, been ceiling in the upper 50s. He's outscored Harden a couple times over that stretch. The Pelicans' interior defense is just among the league's worst, so I think this is a really good spot for Zubac. And he's going up against a rookie defender on the other side in Missy, so it should be able to put up a ton of points here. Same thing for Norm Powell, 7.3K. He's taking a ton of shots right now. The Pelicans are second worst catch shoot defense in the league, second worst transition defense, bottom 4 3-point defense. So he should be able to continue his hot streak of scoring right now. So a little bit less excited by him just because he's priced up. I like him more in like the 6K range, but you could definitely argue that he's a very strong play tonight. These secondary pieces are very interesting too. Kevin Porter Jr., Chris Dunn, and Derrick Jones Jr. The Pelicans can be very turnover prone at times. So I think that any one of these guys could get there, could hit value with some steals, and then the scoring should come with ease here. So I like the ball here a good bit. I'll probably be max one of that group. I like Chris Dunn the most at 4.1K. He's starting to see those minutes climb up a little bit as he, kind of earns the trust of Ty Lue. Played 34 minutes in 2 out of his last 4 games. So yeah, I think that you could definitely talk me into some Chris Dunn. On the Pelican side of things, they'll run a tight rotation if things are close, like I mentioned. So DeJounte Murray, CJ, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Missy could all see those minutes climb into the upper 30. Probably not for Missy, but Herb Jones, Murphy, CJ, and DeJounte Murray could all see those minutes climb up. We saw DeJounte Murray get up to 39 minutes and 44 minutes in 2 of his last 3 games. He's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. Not shooting the ball that well right now, but the assist and rebound numbers are very good. So if you get a case where the shooting does trend up, and then those assist numbers and rebound numbers get into the double digits, could be looking at a really nice score for DeJounte Murray. Very low owned, which is reasonable with how good the point guard position is, but still have a little bit of interest in him. Not really too interested in CJ, just very scoring dependent. I do like Trey Murphy though. He's shooting the ball really well. I would say Trey Murphy is scoring dependent as well, but he's starting to shoot the ball really well right now. 21 or more real points in 7 of his last 8 games, made at least 3 3-pointers in 5 straight games. He's a guy that could get up to like 38, 39 regulation minutes here. So I do like Trey Murphy a good bit in some game stacks. Not really going to get to Missy here, just too many good center options. And then Herb Jones, I think, is pretty interesting. The Clippers have quietly been one of the worst teams at committing turnovers. They have the second highest turnover rate this season. And we know Herb Jones is one of the elite defenders in the league. We've seen a couple high steal games from him. He put up 3 or more steals in 4 of his last 6 games. So I think that he could be a sneaky option. I'm not sure exactly what like a ceiling outcome game looks like for him. Got to 37 against Indy, which I think would be really good, but you're probably not getting into the 40s, which we probably need tonight. But I'm going to bump up his projection a little bit and try to see what lineups look with him in there, because it is a weak night for the forward position. So maybe if we can get away from some of the chalk and hit on those point guards and centers, he could be a pretty valuable option at 5.7K.
Excellent breakdown there. Zubac versus Powell. Where are you going there? I know it's different position, but $300 difference if you're picking a Clipper. Do you have a preference of one over the other?
Yeah, it'd be Zubac for me.
Yeah. I think so as well. Moving on to the next game, we have the Nuggets going in to take on Rio's Jazz team. No Aaron Gordon once again for this Nuggets team. Russell Westbrook has been inserted into the starting lineup. $6,300 tonight, but you have the Nuggets 6.5-point favorites going into Utah. Pretty high total, 238.5-point total, 7.5-point spreads up from 6.5 that we had earlier. But you got the Joker, you got the guys on the Jazz. Talk to me a little bit about this game, Nuggets at the Jazz.
Yeah, Denver should be able to score at will here. Utah's still the worst defense in the league right now. But Utah might be able to hang around to push up some of these minutes on the Nuggets. We've seen Utah is actually, they come out of the Christmas break or whatever. They had, a couple of days off, and they've been playing pretty competitive basketball. The Nuggets are struggling right now defensively this month in the bottom 10 defensive rating, giving up some really big scoring games to Cleveland and to the Pistons. Allowed both those teams. I mean, the Pistons or the Cavs really ran it up on them. Obviously, the Cavs are the best offense in the league right now. But I think the Jazz could hang around here, getting Keontae George back. I don't know if that helps their offense as much, but it's another, legitimate NBA caliber player where you get away from some of these other guys in the back end that weren't that. But yeah, I think Jokic is pretty far and away the best spin on the slate at 12K. We've seen Walker Kessler give up some really big games to superstar big men this season. Should be no different right now for in this matchup for Jokic. In 2 games against Utah this season, Jokic averaging just 61 DK points, but both those games were blowouts. And like I said, we've seen Utah be a little bit more competitive. Vegas is expecting this game to be a little bit closer as well, with Denver just being 7-point favorites. On the road, that's pretty solid. But if we get 36 plus minutes from Jokic, I think that 80 plus is definitely in the cards here. There's also a scenario where he just defers a little bit with this game, with Utah maybe just kind of never really cutting into the lead as much. We could see all these secondary pieces play a little bit better. We've seen Jokic do that before. Doesn't really care too much about the MVP accolades and all that stuff. I could definitely see Jokic doing that. But I think if the game's close, Jokic has a really, really, obviously he has huge upside, 100-point upside if things are going right. Jamal Murray is on heater right now as well, 27 and 20 and 34 points, or I think 24 points actually. Let me double check that. Now 34, put up 34 against Detroit. Really good matchup against the Jazz. One of the best matchups we will get for guards. They're bottom 2, bottom 3 or so in DVP versus point guards and shooting guards. Jamal played 1 game against Utah this season, put up 47 DK points with 4 steals. So I think that could happen again here with Utah being dead last in turnover percentage. MPJ going to be the forgotten man at 6.6K. It's an expensive tag to pay for Jamal Murray being in there as well. But, the matchup does not get any better for guys like him. The Jazz are second worst in 3-point defense and allowing the most catch-and-shoot points per game. That's where Michael Porter Jr. is going to make all of his baskets. So I think that he's a pretty solid option at 6.6K, going to be pretty low owned. And the Russell Westbrook and Christian Bond, I think, could get there in a big way. Russell Westbrook especially. He should continue to start. I don't think that they're going to go to Peyton Watson for the matchup against Laurie if they were fine going with Westbrook in the matchup against Cleveland, who's a much bigger front court. But yeah, the Jazz are terrible. They're dead last in transition defense this season, and we've seen Denver kind of pick up the pace a little bit more with Westbrook in the starting lineup. So I think this could be a game where he's kind of flirting with a triple-double. I wish that he had shooting guard eligibility. I don't know why they give Jamal Murray point guard, shooting guard, and not Russ, but yeah, I'll still get to some Russ. I do think that the upside is really big for him here. Christian Braun definitely going to be the 5th option on offense, but Jazz are a terrible transition, so he could get a lot of easy buckets. On the Jazz side of things, I'm kind of torn what to do here because some of these guys are projecting pretty well from what I'm seeing, and they should be able to keep the game close, but with Keontae George returning, it makes it tough to want to get to these guards now because they're going to split the minutes between 4 different guys, with Collier sneaking in behind Keontae George, and then Clarkson and Sexton now probably splitting those shooting guard minutes. I would probably just be max 1 of Sexton, Clarkson, and Keontae and Collier. I don't think that you're probably keeping him in your player pool. I do give the edge to Clarkson a little bit. Seems like they're kind of throwing him out there for decently big minutes because I think that he's a pretty talked about name on the trade market right now, so probably want to up his stock a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really want to get to these guards, but I do think Laurie and Walker Kessler make sense in game stacks because I think that if these guys are hitting in a big way, it's probably because the game is close. And if the game's close, it's probably going to be high scoring because that's what Vegas is projecting. Lauri's still a little bit too cheap, and we've seen the minutes start to climb up a little bit. He's playing a longer first and third quarter rotation. So probably getting up to like 36 minutes now. Denver's defense has really struggled. They don't really have defenders that could stop him from what he does well, which is he'll be able to shoot over everybody that's in front of him. So I do think Lauri makes some sense in game stacks. And then Walker Kessler, I think, is fine in game stacks, but I think it's good in game stacks, but is fine as a one-off play because he's crushed this matchup. We've seen Jokic give up low-key really big center games to worse centers than him. And Kessler's gone for 46 and 47 DK points in the 2 games that they played this season with 5 and 3 blocks. The Nuggets are bottom 9 in DVP versus centers this season, and we've seen Kessler's minutes really get pushed up in close games. I think that there's a chance that he matches Jokic's minutes, maybe not 100%, but maybe like 90%, something like that, because they don't want to put guys like Drew Eubanks and Micah Potter, whoever else is going to be running behind him on Jokic as much. So I think that we could get a little bit more minutes than we're used to from Kessler tonight. So I think that he's my favorite option on the Utah side, but I like these Denver pieces a lot.
Yeah, Mario Banks, what's going on, my boy? We see you out there testing in the chat. What about these Jazz guards? I know you mentioned them, but what's your favorite? I mean, Jordan's asking any love for Clarkson. I know you mentioned him in a little bit, but how do you with Keontae coming back? Any love for him at all, or just kind of like maybe if you're doing like 20 plus teams, or where are you at on Jordan?
Yeah, I think Clarkson would definitely be my favorite option. Just having the shooting guard eligibility, I don't really want to burn a spot on Keontae George tonight. He's coming off of a couple strong games before he was dealing with that injury, but he's kind of part of the future. So I don't think that they're going to be pushing him up there to 32 plus minutes tonight. So I think that Clarkson is a little bit better, mainly just for the eligibility thing. But yeah, I'm not in love with the guards. I would rather just get to Lauri or Kessler on the Utah side.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. We got 3 games left. If you are just joining us, make sure you're hitting the like. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Next game up on the slate should be a decent one. Got a former 2017, 18 maybe finals rematch, but we got the Cavs taking on the Warriors. Everybody's gone except Steph and Draymond from those glory days. But like you said it earlier, Cavs best offense in the NBA right now. Got the Twin Towers in there. Taking on this Warriors team, Steph, new look Warriors with Dennis Schroeder in there. But talk to me a little bit about this game. You got the Cavs 4.5 point favorites and a 230 total. Cavs at Golden State.
Yeah, I agree with Ross about the spread seeming a little bit fishy. I don't know if he means that it should be closer or further apart.
I think he was talking about the Nuggets game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, if that's what he was talking about, then never mind. But if he was talking about this game, then I do agree with him because I don't think that the Warriors can hang with the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. I mean, the Cavs are just, I would say probably definitely top 2, top 3 team in the league right now. Top 10, they're a top 9 defense and the number 1 overall offense this season. And the Warriors are still kind of figuring things out, mixing and matching the lineup. I do think we start to see a tighter rotation now for the Warriors because they are starting to play a little bit better, figuring things out with Kuminga. He's kind of learning how to play with Steph and Draymond a little bit more. There were some notes about Draymond saying that he doesn't really want to play too much center this season, but if he needs to, he will because he hates losing more than he hates playing the center position. Or maybe other way around, he likes winning more than he dislikes playing the center position. But yeah, so they're starting to figure things out. And some guys in the back end are just not playing good, like Buddy Hield, playing terribly right now, so I wouldn't be surprised to see his minutes cut back a little bit. Moses Moody should be returning tonight, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Trace Jackson Davis sneak in for some minutes behind Kevon Looney sneak in for some center minutes behind Trace Jackson Davis. But yeah, as far as the game environment goes, I do think that Cavs just have a really big edge here offensively and defensively. I think that they win this game pretty easily. So I don't really want to get to these. They're all priced up too. Like you're paying near $8K for Mobley, $8.2K for Donovan Mitchell. I do think those are probably the guys you are looking to play in this game. Nothing really stands out from a matchup perspective. The Warriors are pretty bad with their catch and shoot defense, so both those guys kind of profile decently here. Mobley's been very good this month, averaging 28 and 3.5 for 40.6 DK points per game. In one of those games, he only played like 7 minutes. So you could say that he's probably averaging close to like 44, 43 DK points this month. So he'd probably be my favorite option at power forward, and then Donovan Mitchell at shooting guard. I would probably not want to play him at point guard. And then probably won't get to Garland, just a little bit too expensive. Jared Allen, I could see the minutes getting dialed back here. I mentioned it last time that the Cavs were on the slate against Denver, where he could see those minutes get pushed up a little bit, played 31 minutes against Jokic, and they blew him out, had a huge game. I think that they get dialed back a little bit. They've been okay benching him for guys like George Niang and Dean Wade if they go more small ball, which we know the Warriors will do that at times. So, yeah, really just Donovan and Mobley for me on the Cavs side. On the Warriors, Steph a little bit too expensive, too much opportunity cost at point guard to spend up at $9K for him. Draymond's starting to play a lot more minutes, 34 and 35 minutes in his last 2 games. I don't know how long they could risk playing Steph and Draymond that much, just with how old they are, and they're always seemingly in and out of the lineup. So probably see those get dialed back here if the game is a little bit out of reach. But if it's close and he gets to 34, he's got a good chance of paying off because he does add the peripherals. A good bet for a double-double on a night-to-night basis if those minutes do get pushed up. Wiggins seems a little bit more like a floor play for me at 5.4K, but he does fill a weak small forward, power forward position, so I'm probably going to get to a good amount of him. Not getting to Schroeder. I don't think I'll get to too much Trace Jackson-Davis here. Minutes could get dialed back as the Cavs match those small ball minutes with some other guys on the other side. But Kuminga, I think you could definitely play here. He's looking like he's really turned the corner I feel like I say this a lot every year with Kuminga, but I mean he's looked really good the last 2 games. Put up 60.5 DK points, 52.25 DK points, taking a ton of shots. They've said they want to play him more as a small forward, so trying to find more minutes for him to play alongside Steph and Draymond. Yeah, I think he's probably my favorite option at 5.8K. They said Steve Kerr said they're going to play him starter-like minutes, so I think that cutting some guys out of the rotation like Hield and like Kyle Anderson could open up some more minutes, and we could see like 32, 34 minutes from Kuminga off the bench moving forward. I think that he gives them probably the best opportunity to win. I think Kuminga is probably the best play on the Warrior side of things.
What are the odds that Draymond dog cusses Buddy Hield out tonight?
1-1.
Yeah, and Ross, sorry, I read it wrong. Ross was talking about the Warriors game, hence why he said this Warrior spread seems fishy. I was thinking something else, but yeah, Kuminga's been cooking. Should be an exciting game. There was one other thing I was going to say about this. I forget what it was, but great breakdown on that one. Moving on to the next one, got the 76ers, got Joel Embiid headed up to Portland, take on these Trailblazers. Should be a decent game. They only have a 6-point spread, 222 point total. Any love for anybody outside of Joel Embiid? I see PG-13s popping in some of the optimals over here, but 76ers at the Trailblazers.
Yeah, I'll touch on the Portland stuff really quickly here because I do. So I see there's 6.5 point favorites. Is that what you said Portland is?
Yeah. No.
Or Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that is interesting because, I think that probably tells me that some of these guys that are questionable for Portland are going to miss. And I do think that these are really big Q tags in terms of the slate because we could get some really, really good ownership on the Portland side of things. Jeremy Grant, Toumani Camara, Robert Williams, and Delano Ben all listed questionable. I think the biggest ones are obviously Camara and Grant because if those guys miss, it's going to open up a ton of usage and a ton of minutes for guys like Denny Avdia and Scoot Henderson. I think if we get those guys at sub 5% ownership, I would feel really good about that because they could easily crush their price tags at 5.5K and 5K. Again, I wish that Scoot had I wish he had shooting guard eligibility. But yeah, those guys would look really good here if Camara and Grant were to miss, and even better if Robert Williams and Delano Ben were to miss. I think that the Portland, they have enough talent to keep the game close enough to where we would get big minutes from these guys. And we've seen with the injury situations with those guys, Ben, Williams, Camara, and Grant missing, they tightened things up a lot. I think they only played I have to look at the popcorn machine, but I believe it was definitely an 8-man rotation, but could have been something like a 7.5-man because there's some of those guys behind behind those like real rotation pieces are just not NBA caliber players. Yeah, so they played essentially it was a 7-man or a 8-man rotation with Grant in there. Rupert got in there for 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes. And then even Chris Murray, he played 8 minutes. So yeah, it was more like a 7-man rotation. So yeah, I do think that trying to find a way to backload. I haven't built teams, but there are 3 games at 7, so you could reserve like 3 to 4 spots in these late games, which I think is you're going to have guys from Dallas who look really good, like we'll talk about in the next game. But we're definitely reserving some spots for this injury situation on Portland. I think could pay off in a pretty big way, because I do think that Denny for sure would be a really, really strong play. I would much rather play Denny than Wiggins. I guess you could do that. You could start with Wiggins, and then if save $100, I think that Denny is 100 more. Or even Kuminga, you could start there and then go down to Denny if those guys do get ruled out. But if those guys are in, I'm not playing any Portland guys. On the Philly side of thing, it's really just Joel and Maxey here. Joel should crush in this matchup against DeAndre Ayton. The rim defense for the Blazers has gotten much worse over this past month. The rebounding has been a huge issue. Embiid has some really strong usage rates since returning to the lineup, 35% usage rate. So he should be a really strong option at 9.5K. Would expect him to smash here. Tyrese Maxey would be in a really good spot if Toumani Camara were to miss. I mentioned it with Kyrie. It's a really big spot for guards whenever Camara is out of the lineup, because I do view him as one of the very underrated and one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. I think that if you put him on a winning team, he would definitely be getting a lot more shine. But yeah, if he were to be out, then be a very good spot for Maxey, and his usage has held up 30% with Embiid over the last couple of games. The pick and roll 2-man game with Embiid and Maxey has looked really good as well. He's played 41 minutes in 3 straight games, 65 plus DK points in 2 of those games. So I think that he'd be a really good low-owned option at guard tonight. And then I just can't get to Paul George. I don't care if he's popping optimals. He's just posting career low usage rates, sharing the core with Embiid and Maxey. So I can't pay 7.5K for him with a fully healthy team in terms of Embiid and Maxey being healthy. Not going to play Kelly Oubre. Caleb Martin, I think, is a fine option at 4.3K. He's going to play a ton of minutes. They'll probably leave him open a lot. Portland is bottom 7 in 3-point defense, and that's kind of where you want to play Caleb Martin, is against weak 3-point defenses. So I would not mind him, but I definitely prefer Embiid and Maxey in this game.
Yeah, I really like Maxey. 20-plus shots in 4 straight games, double-digit, or 9+ threes in 4 straight games. He's just shooting it a ton, playing 40-some-odd minutes. So really like him. Big Ant says that Sixers don't really blow teams out. Jared saying Maxey was bad and almost he had 48.5 last game. And JT, Jason Turner, welcome. Thank you for tuning in, as always, per usual. So Tyrone C. So I don't know what that means. So hello to you, Tyrone. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all that you do for us over here at SHIPIT Nation.
Before you move on to the next game, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off real quick, but there's one thing I forgot. This would probably be more of a late slate type of thing, but I mean, Klingon as a backup center, 3.6K. There probably is a 50+% chance that Ayton gets into foul trouble early in this game. And Klingon returned from the injury a couple weeks ago. Hasn't really played a lot of minutes, but he's a very, very good point per minute producer. And we've seen Embiid give up a ton of blocks and steals at times. So I think that he's kind of sneaky. I kind of like Klingon a little bit, just kind of bump him up to like 20 points, max one him and Ayton, and see what it gets you. Because I do think that there's a really good chance that Ayton gets into foul trouble. And if you get 20 minutes from Klingon, he could pay off in a big way.
Yeah, 3,600. Agree with you there. We have one game left. If all 200 of you out there, just do me a huge favor. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Would help Rio and out a ton over here. All right, Rio, we got to the biggest game of the slate in terms of injury news. We have the Dallas Mavericks heading in to Sacramento to take on the Doug Christie-led Kings. The big news, no Luka. We got it about, an hour or so ago. No Kyrie tonight. So big game in terms of that. Should be tons of value. On the Friday show, I was all in on Klay Thompson hitting 4+ threes. Is tonight the night that Klay can hit him 4 threes against this Kings team? He should get a bunch of shots. But talk to me about this game. You got the Mavericks catching 6.5, 225-point total. Mavericks at the Kings.
Yeah, this game is definitely interesting now because I'll start with the Kings side. It was our first look of the Kings without Mike Brown. Didn't really go as planned. I was kind of I think they played on Saturday. I was very unsure about the spread. It made sense with them being favorited because LeBron was going to miss, but they still ended up losing, and they're going to play the guys a ton of minutes. So I think that you should definitely have some interest in these Kings pieces, mainly Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. Especially now with Kyrie out, there's probably a better chance that they can win this game, and they're going to play these guys a ton of minutes. But this is still a really good Mavericks defense, even taking out Luka and taking out Kyrie Irving. Nobody really looks at those guys as like great defenders, but the Mavericks are playing really good team defense. They're top 10 in defensive rating this season. Getting PJ Washington back is huge because he's been one of the best defenders on their team since coming over last season. But yeah, with no Luka and Kyrie, we're probably going to see Quentin Grimes step into the starting lineup, and then we'll see more minutes for guys like Jaden Hardy. Probably going to see one of Prosper or Gortman filling in some minutes as well. But yeah, I mean, that's going to vacate a huge on-ball role. I would expect Grimes to have a massive role now, and he probably becomes, I would say, the best value on the slate. Definitely would find the money to get up to him over Micic by a long shot because he's been very good in starts this season, averaging 36 DK points per game in 3 starts. Yeah, I think that this stylistically, it is a good spot for Clay. The Kings are allowing the third most 3-pointers per game this season. Bottom 4 catch and shoot. Those are the areas that Clay gets all of his offense going. He's just such a streaky shooter. It's very tough to know when it's going to spike in a big way. But the good thing that we're seeing from Clay is the minutes, 32 and 34 minutes in the last 2 games. Probably going to see 32, 34 again tonight. Jason Kidd has talked about getting him more looks on offense. They said they want to run offense through him a little bit more, and they need him to step it up, and definitely need him tonight. I will say, though, at 40+%, Clay is probably not the guy I look to for ceiling. I get it. He's going to project really well, and he's going to have a lot more usage. But he doesn't really do much outside of score. Like, he had a couple games where he had 5 and 6 assists against Phoenix and got up to 30 fantasy points. But even then, like, he's shooting the ball horribly right now. So if you're just on the bad side of variance and you play him at 40%, your lineups are going to get sunk by some guys that can outscore him. And I do think that there are a lot of options in that mid 5K range that could outscore him. I would probably much rather get down to Quentin Grimes at 500 cheaper because it's the same player. I would say maybe a little bit more rebounding upside for a guy like Grimes, but they're both streaky shooters. They're both going to be just launching threes, but Grimes probably has a little bit more ceiling, I would say. No, that's not true. I would say Clay definitely has more ceiling, but I would say Grimes probably has a little bit better of a floor, and he's going to be half the ownership. And then, I mean, Lively is still questionable too, so worth waiting on that news for Daniel Gafford because he would project really well at 5K. They would have to play him a ton of minutes. Got up to 28, 29 the last 2 starts, 36 DK points against Portland. A little bit of foul risk against Sabonis. Sabonis likes to just put his head down and run into center's chest and get to the free throw line sometimes. But I think Gafford would be a very, very strong play and might not look at too much ownership. So it's the usual suspect. Oh, I didn't mention Jaden Hardy because I think that with him having shooting guard eligibility is definitely something I want to get into a good bit. I think that he's going to play a good amount of minutes in that second unit. They need him for secondary ball handling because you're not going to want to put the ball in the hands of guys like Grimes and Klay Thompson in terms of running the offense. I think that Hardy would have a pretty big role, and they trust him in the second unit. He was playing regular rotation minutes earlier this season, and if the game were to blow out, he's going to be out there. So a lot of ways that things could go right for Hardy, and very few that could go wrong. So I like him a lot. The King side, Sabonis and Fox are definitely my favorite plays. Sabonis was on his way to a really big game last time versus the Lakers. I cored him. He was 3 assists away from the triple-double, but fouled out in 26 minutes. So, yeah, I think that he's a pretty solid option. 9.3K seems pretty cheap for him. Not looking at too much ownership. De'Aaron Fox is taking a ton of shots now, going to play a ton of minutes, probably a little bit more motivated now. He's not playing for Mike Brown, who it seems like he just hates. So I think that he's a pretty good option at 8.8K. I'm not playing DeMar DeRozan 7.7K. I think you could definitely play Monk still at 7K because he has had a very solid ball handling role in the starting unit. Touch time was up above De'Aaron Fox's for a little bit when they first rolled out this new starting lineup. So I think that he would be a fine option at 7K. But I definitely prefer Fox and Sabonis the most on the King side.
Excellent breakdown there. And yeah, Ross, no Mike Brown. He's hit the showers. It's Doug Christie now, former King great. Doug Christie at that. Sabonis, a lot of talk about Sabonis in the chat. We appreciate you tuning in so much, everybody over here at SHIPIT Nation. Thank you for tuning in. That's all 7 games. If you are a member over at SHIPIT Nation, make sure you head over to the NBA page. Check out Rio's slate plan. Rio will have a core report up there. Myself will as well. And our guy BJ, another DK core report as well. Thank you so much, all 200 of you. On your way out, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We will be back tomorrow with another NBA show. And then is there an NBA? What are we doing for Wednesday, Rio? Are we doing a show? Actually, I think I'm doing a show. So I think we're doing a show. So I'm doing a show for Title on the 1st itself. Do you do that as well, or is that somebody else?
No, it's usually be on Wednesdays. We got to check the schedule and see what they do in terms of the slate. Yeah, because there's two games at noon or noon my time, and then a couple. There's only 4 at 4, so we'll have to figure out something. There will be content for sure. We'll just have to figure out about. There'll be
content. May not be a live show, but there'll definitely be a content. Head on over to ShipItNation.com. Enter that promo code BF50 to get you 50% off your first month for the rest of the NFL season. That'll get you everything. But for my guy, Hebrewcheetah, a.k.a. Rio, I'm Ham. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Let's ship it.